Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Sayyid Akif Shah, lecturer finance at Institute of Business Studies, Kohat University of Science and Technology. The title of this course is Business Research Methods, and the course code for this subject is MS 312. This is lecture number 18, and the topic for today's discussion is research process, under the umbrella of which we will discuss the moderating and intervening variables in detail. So dear student, this is a complete research diagram, and since this lecture is in continuity to the previous few lectures, where we have discussed the fifth step of the research diagram or process. In order to know about the previous fourth step in detail, you can visit to my previous lectures. The emphasis of this lecture will particularly be on the theoretical framework. For a good theoretical framework to be made or a conceptual model to be made, one should be clear about the variables identified in the literature review which are pertinent to the current problem, and then to label them as dependent, independent, moderating, or intervening variables. So the emphasis in this lecture will be on the moderating and intervening variables. The outline of this lecture comprises of a short definition of a theoretical framework, which will furnish grounds for the explanation and understanding of the dependent and independent variables, along with the explanation and clarification of the moderating and intervening variables. And we will also discuss the illustrative research examples to explain the phenomena of moderating and intervening variables in the research studies. Dear student, theoretical framework is actually the identification and developing of logical network of relationships amongst the variables considered important to the study of any given problem or situation. So basically, in the theoretical framework, we will explain that what kind of relationship, positive or negative or having no relationship at all, between the dependent and independent variables, and what is the role of moderating and intervening variable to explain the relationship between dependent and independent variable. Variable, as explained already in my previous lecture, is something that keep on changing or keep on changing values or numerical figures for that. So it is a variable that can take on different or varying values on different time periods, like production unit and absenteeism. There are four kinds of variables known as dependent and independent variable. The prime interest of research variable is dependent variable, and the independent variable is actually explaining the or influencing the dependent variable. Now the nexus between the dependent and independent variable can be influenced by certain moderating variable or mediating or intervening variables. Dependent and independent variables relationship has already been explained in my previous lecture. So the emphasis in this lecture will be on the moderating effect, or what is a moderating variable. Dear student, a variable that modifies the relationship between independent and dependent variable is known as a moderating variable. Before taking the business or social studies research example, let me give you a daily routine examples to understand the moderating variable. Let's say we have two brothers who have friendly relationship with each other. They are quite frank and they can play games with each other. And let's suppose if they are sitting in their drawing room and enjoying a movie or a drama, in an open and friendly way. And all of a sudden their father arrived or entered into the room. Now those two boys of brothers who were in a very jolly and enjoying mood, they will have all of a sudden a changed behavior with each other. Like previously they were laughing out loud and having a relaxed mood with each other while watching a comedy or any soap or drama or movie. When their father will be seated with them or arrived in the same drawing room, so that frank relationship between two brothers will ultimately be transformed into a formal relationship. So the entry of father in this case is known as or surfaces as a moderating variable which has influenced the relationship between two brothers. Now let us take a business or research example to explain the moderating variable. We have the independent variable, one independent variable and one dependent variable, and as well as a moderating variable. The theory or phenomena explains that the number of rejected products, like the workers are producing products and those products will either be rejected or accepted by the customers. So when there is flaw or defects in the product, the customer usually return that product and will known as a rejected product. Other than the customer rejections, there is normally the quality control departments which usually checks the product manufactured by the workers inside the organization so that before it reaches in the hands of the ultimate consumer, it should be flawless and we will receive less number of complaints from external side or customers. So the internal quality control unit may also reject the products manufactured by the workers. The manager is interested to know about the number of reject products and its nexus or relationship with the availability of reference manual. Now what is reference manual? The reference manual is actually a booklet which explains how to make a flawless or defect free product. So if there is a reference manual placed in the records and shelves of the organization, which may be consulted by the workers before manufacturing, then the theory assumes that the availability of reference manual may lead to the less number of rejected products. And if there is no reference manual at all, then the number of reject products will be more or increased. And if the reference manual is available in the organization, it will lead towards less number of rejected products or low number of rejected products. But in order to explain this relationship between the availability of reference manual and number of rejected products, we have another variable which is interest to read the manual. If the workers of the organization are interested to read the reference manual before manufacturing the product, then the number of rejected products will be quite lower. However, if the employees or workers of the organization are not interested at all, they are not interested to read the even though the reference manual is available, but they are not interested to read the reference manual, still there will be greater number of rejected products. So it means that the relationship between the reference manual and number of rejected product has been influenced by the interest of the employees or workers to read the reference manual or consult the reference manual before manufacturing. So under this example, the relationship between the two dependent and independent variable has been influenced by a third variable which is known as a moderating variable. When the workers are entrusted to read the reference manual, the number of rejected products will be fewer, and if the workers of the organization are not interested to read the reference manual, even though the reference manual is available in the organization, there will be greater number of rejected products because they will make flawful and defective products which will be rejected by the quality control or ultimately by the consumer. So we can say a variable that have an effect on the relationship between dependent and independent variable is called a moderating variable, because either it will strengthen the relationship between dependent and independent variable, or it will weaken the relationship between the two. Let us take another example to explain the moderating variable. The idea or the phenomena says that the impact of workforce diversity on organizational effectiveness, a mediating role of managerial expertise. The research or the problem states that our dependent variable, which is organizational effectiveness, has been influenced by workforce diversity. So in order to make a study on this phenomena, one should know about what is workforce diversity and what is the organizational effectiveness. The organizational effectiveness can be defined as when the workers or employees are producing the optimized number of products or service to the customer or client by using less number of resources. We can say that organization is effectively performing. And the workforce diversity means that when a company has different multinational, racial and ethnic background of employees in the organization, we can say that the organization has workforce diversity. Like the employees and workers of the companies belong to different races, different cultures, different nationalities and ethnic backgrounds. So when there is a mix of employees working in a particular organization, so ultimately it will have a good employees, a diversified environment where the employee can share the expertise of different regions, ethnic backgrounds and the organization. It will ultimately leads towards the organizational effectiveness. But in order to utilize the workforce diversity, the managerial roles mediate or moderate in the middle. Not mediate, but actually moderate the relationship between the dependent and independent variables. If the manager of the company is quite expert enough to utilize the experiences of diversified workforce, only then the workforce diversity can impact or influence the organizational effectiveness in a positive fashion. If a particular organization manager is not expert to utilize the different diversified workforce, then such kind of mixed environment from multi-racial, multi-ethnic and the multinational people will not influence the desired organizational effectiveness. So in conclusion, we can say that the relationship between the organizational effectiveness and the workforce diversity has been influenced by the managerial expertise. If the manager is highly expert, then the workforce diversity will influence greater in number towards the organizational effectiveness. However, if the manager is not expert to utilize the diversified workforce, then ultimately it will not benefit the organization towards achieving the effectiveness. So Let us discuss now mediating or intervening variable. It is the variable that surfaces between the time the independent variable start operating to influence the dependent variable and the time their impact is felt on. Thus, there is a temporal quality dimensions to explain the intervening variable. Let us explain the intervening or mediating variable with the help of an illustrative example that we have started in our previous case where we have explained the moderating variable. We have once again same workforce diversity as explained earlier, and it has certain nexus relationship with organizational effectiveness, which is our dependent variable. Now we know in our previous example that greater diversified workforce, the higher will be organizational effectiveness. Only and only there is managerial expertise to utilize the workforce diversity. So in the middle, another variable has been emerged which is known as creative synergy. Now what is this? A synergy means the interaction or cooperation of two or more organization or people to produce combined effect greater than the sum of their separate effects. It means that the combined, if the people may produce a combined effect on a certain phenomena or problem, it will have greater outcome than the individual efforts or individual results put on by the two individuals or more than two individuals. Another way around, we can say that synergy means that combining the hands with each other, making good teams picked up from the diversified workforce environment, so that to make a good synergy or good teams combined impact, and this will leads towards the organizational effectiveness. So until and unless the creative synergy has been developed, the diversified workforce cannot impact the organizational effectiveness, which is dependent variable. Or another way around, we can say that the diversified workforce cannot enhance the organizational effectiveness until the creative synergy has been developed. Now how to generate or how this variable has been generated? It was because of the managerial expertise which was surfacing grounds as moderating variable to strengthen the relationship between workforce diversity and organizational effectiveness. This may be explained in the next diagram, which is a complete and thorough diagram. So we can say that at time 1, when the independent variable was present in the organization, which was workforce diversity, it was influencing the organizational effectiveness only if the managerial is expert enough. So managerial expertise is the moderating variable, which is strengthening the relationship between dependent and independent variable. So if the manager is expert to utilize the diversified workforce, the organizational effectiveness will be enhanced. So while utilizing the expertise of the managers to make organizational effectiveness increased, it actually creating a synergy. And synergy has already been explained that the combined impact of two or more than two people is greater than their individual impacts. So making good and motivated and diversified teams from the workforce, which is a diversified workforce, only then the organizational effectiveness may be enhanced. So when a fourth variable or an additional variable surfaces at time 2, when the independent variable starts operating and start impacting the organizational effectiveness, which is dependent variable, another variable actually intervene in the middle, which was making a creative synergy. So with the help of managerial expertise, By utilizing diversified workforce, manager has actually created a good synergy, which is a liaison function, and this good synergy team will ultimately achieve the desired outcome, which is our dependent variable at time 3. So with the help of this intervening variable, the organizational effectiveness will be increased because the combined impact of the work of diversified workforce will increase the overall organizational effectiveness in a better way. So we can say that the individual impact of the diversified workforce has fewer impact on organizational effectiveness. However, if they made a creative, a good synergy amongst them, it will lead towards the greater impact on the dependent variable, which is our desired variable. So we can conclude that if a manager is looking to enhance the organizational effectiveness, and even though if he or she may have a good diversified workforce, then the manager must be quite expert enough to create this synergy so that their combined impact may enhance the organizational effectiveness in a better way. Let us take another illustrative example or a research case to explain the intervening variable. Here, a manager of ABC company observed that morale of employees in her company is low. So the morale of employee is our desired variable, which will be termed as dependent variable. The prime interest of the manager working in the ABC company who is looking to increase the morale of the employees so that the productivity or the overall organizational effectiveness may be enhanced. So therefore, she thinks that if the working conditions are improved, it means this is our independent variable. If she thinks that to improve the working condition or to increase the pay scales may be increased, which is another independent variable, and as well as if the vacation benefits made attractive, third independent variables. She thinks that if these conditions may be increased, the morale will be boosted and enhanced. However, she doubts that if an increase of pay would raise the morale of all employees. Why she doubts about that? Because she hypothesized that the employees who have supplemental incomes. Now, what is supplemental incomes? The employees who have other sources of income, like they may have income from their rented properties, or they might have invested their amount in the stock of different companies or in different businesses as well. So all those employees who have supplemental or other sources of income, their morale will not be boosted or turn not be higher pay with increasing the pay. Rather, only those without side incomes will be happy with the increased pay with the resultant boost of morale. Now let us make a conceptual model regarding this research work of the manager. The manager was explaining that if the working condition of the organization may increase, it will boost up the morale of the employees, which was dependent variable. If the vacation benefit was made attractive, the morale of the employees may be increased. And the third independent variable was increase in the pay scales. If the pay scales may be increased, the morale of the employees may or may not increase. Now the pay scale, even though if it had been increased by the manager, an additional variable which was known as an intervening variable, which was supplemental income, and it starts surfacing while this independent variable was influencing the morale or dependent variable of the employees. Now at this point, the supplemental income is intervening because it is impacting the influence of the pay scale rise on the morale of the employees, as narrated and hypothesized by the manager that all those people who have supplemental income, their morale will not be boosted at all. And only those who have not supplemental incomes, the additional pay increase will definitely result towards increase in the morale of the employees. So now it has been cleared from our example that what is dependent variable, what is independent variable, what is moderating and intervening variables. So this is all about the 4 different types of variables which are very much crucial while we are studying or doing any research work, which are known as dependent and independent variable, which are our prime interest. However, the moderating and intervening variable know-how is very much important, because these are the variable which influence the independent and dependent relationship in positive or negative way. Either they will strengthen or they will weaken the relationship between dependent and independent variables. So this was all about the 4 types of variables. Thank you very much for listening to this lecture. If you have questions still, ambiguity in any phenomena or variable explanation, you are free to ask question on my registered email. Thank you very much once again. Good luck for the day. Allah Hafiz.